It's a cold, foggy Monday morning in January, and I'm at my local train station. I've got a couple of days holiday still to take, otherwise I lose it. So I booked today and tomorrow off, and I want to go somewhere. And I was umming and ahhing about what I should do, and what I've decided to do is do something that I've done before. A few years back, I went up to London and I followed in the footsteps of the narrator. I used the novel. H.G. Wells is very specific about where the narrator travels, and I used that as a travel guide, and I moved from the Natural History Museum in South Kensington up through the West End, up Baker Street, round Regent's Park, up to Primrose Hill, where the Martian camp was. And that was good fun. It was a baking hot summer's day, as I recall. It was so hot that they were warning everyone not to, I got people coming, not to travel on the underground. It was so hot. So I'm going to do another one. But instead of being at the end of the book, I'm going to the beginning of the book. I'm off to Woking for 2 days. Woking is where the first cylinder lands. It's where the heat ray fires for the first time, and it's the first time mankind gets to see the tripods. So that's where I'm off to. I'm catching this train in about 15 minutes when we can actually get in the flaming thing. Travelling up to London Waterloo East, then London Waterloo down to Woking. It's about an hour and 10-minute train ride up to London from here, but then it's only about 25 minutes to Woking. I'm just hoping the sun's going to burn this fog off. It's meant to be a nice day today, but we'll see. Well, here I am. I'm in Woking, and the fog has gone, thankfully. When I did this before, up in London, I'd say a good 70 or 80% of the buildings were Victorian still. I don't think we're going to get the same today. There's a lot of massive development. I've just walked up from the train station. Sorry, I was getting a funny look. So here I am in Woking, the start of War of the Worlds. Now, H.G. Wells lived in Woking, well, at least for 18 months of his life, and it's a real oddity because all the action, everything that happens is on the outskirts. The only real mention you get of the town centre itself is a few trips to the railway station, which I've just been in. You don't see, there's no mention, there's nothing regarding, so people keep walking past. Every time I go to record, people walk past me. There's no chronicling of any destruction that happened in the town centre by the Martians. All right, so hang on. In London, you do this, nobody bats an eyelid. When you come out into a town anywhere, they do. That building over there where the person in the red coat is, that's a Wetherspoons pub. That's where I'm going for lunch. It's called the Herbert George Wells, and apparently there's a time machine and an invisible man in there. So I'm going to have my lunch now, and I'll continue afterwards. So what you've just had there are a couple of images from inside the Wetherspoons. I was very happy about that. I went in there usually because Wetherspoons is a discount pub. You get a lot of pissheads and drunks and that, hanging around there. But it was nearly all old people and young parents with little toddlers, and it was really good. And that first thing that you saw was a metal sculpture of the Invisible Man, and very pleased to actually be able to sit in the table right next to it. So that was good. He was my lunchtime companion. That feature on the ceiling, I think that's the nod to the Time Machine. I was expecting a George Powell time machine hanging from the ceiling or something, not a little art piece, but that's fine. That's fine. If that's the Time Machine, it's good. They're acknowledging, you know, his contribution. And yeah, the last thing is when I come out, sorry Kevin, my brother, if you're watching this, I should have really picked that microphone up yesterday. I've now got to talk between the vehicles. And one more. Yeah, and the last one was when I come out the toilet. You got that quite quaint depiction of two of the tripods attacking this area. So yeah, that's me done. I'm out, I'm refreshed, and I'm just about to head up to Horsell Common. What I'm going to do is today and tomorrow, I'm going to go through the I'm going to visit the locations in chronological order as they appear in the book. So the first thing I've got to go to is to Horsell Common, and I know on the way there will be greenery and there will be peace and quiet, so I won't have to keep doing these pauses. But before I go, this isn't the most direct route to Horsell Common. Just to give you an idea, geography wise, down there, that's about 10 minutes walk from the town centre. Didn't realise when I came in, but that's actually the railway banks. The railway line is there, all right? So town centre there, but the reason I'm standing here right now and I'm being stared at by bloody students is 141 Maybury Road, which is the house that H.G. Wells lived in for approximately 18 months of his life. And I guess while he was here, he was, making note of everywhere and all of the geography and everything. So, and that's why the events unfolded on his doorstep. Not quite literally, and that's because I found out about his house there through a site on the internet, which is the Wells's Woking Walk Guide sort of thing, and so I'm indebted to that for finding out about that. But yeah, we're coming up to a key location, which this bridge will be coming back to later on. But the guide map, the map that comes with it, has it that the narrator's house is just over there around that corner. I doubt that very much, and the reason why I'll come to shortly. But anyway, I'm getting to a noisy bit. I'll come back when I'm in a quiet bit. Well, this is amazing. This is about 10 minutes since my last little recording. I was heading off to Horsell Common, and I've always just taken it that Horsell Common is a mile or so outside of Woking town centre, but it's not. This is Horsell Common. We are on Horsell Common. Just over there through those trees is the canal bridge, which we will be visiting tomorrow, which is a key moment in the book. But yeah, Horsell Common starts at the canal. I didn't realise. This place wasn't around in H.G. Wells's time. This is called the Peace Gardens, and it's a memorial to the Muslim soldiers that died serving the British forces in the First and Second World Wars. So that's here, beautiful looking place. I'm heading north now, that away, up towards the sandpits of Horsell Common. All right, so let's go. We're on our way. There's no one around, thankfully, anymore, so I can just tell you a little bit more about stuff. I always find it amazing when I go back and reread the book, in that everybody knows it's Horsell Common, but if you read the book, H.G. Wells doesn't actually mention Woking. He doesn't say that's where it starts. The first mention we ever get of a location is that Ogilvy, the astronomer, has a observatory at Ottershaw, and that's a few miles north of here, a few miles north of Woking. And I'd also like to point out, and I might point this out a few times as well during this little video, if your experience and knowledge of the novel solely comes from the Jeff Wayne's musical version, Jeff Wayne, of course, you know, he's either missed out pieces or truncated them, or maybe he did. I know I've got that box set where you've got lots of outtakes and alternative bits of narration, and maybe he did record some of it. But anyway, the version that we all know, that it is quite different. Okay, if you listen to the Jeff Wayne thing, there's no mention of the narrator going to Ottershaw and meeting Ogilvy and using his telescope. He says, and I quote, "As I watched, there was another jet of gas. It was another missile starting on its way," which puts it all down to the narrator is actually, you know, responsible for noticing the firings on Mars. Okay. Now, the first mention, excuse me, I'm a bit out of breath. The first mention or indicator of where the narrator lives is when he's gone out for an evening stroll. This is before everything's kicked off, before the missile has landed. He goes out for an evening stroll with his wife, and he says a group of excursionists from Chertsey or Isleworth passed them, and from the railway station in the distance came the sound of shunting trains, ringing and rumbling, softened almost into melody by the distance. Well, that can be possible because the railway station's just over there where I was just then. Chertsey is to the north again of Ottershaw, and Isleworth is much further away than that. All right, so yeah, I'm heading on up to Horsell Common. Well, I'm afraid I'm back to the noise. This is a very busy road. It's a road into Woking, and it cuts Horsell Common in two. I've just come from that way, and I'm going that way. So this, just give you, oh, I got an emergency vehicle. All right, that's enough of looking at that. I'm heading off. That bill. I know, I should have that microphone. That building back there, in amongst all that noise, that's called Bleak House. And in the most excellent graphic novel, The League of Extraordinary Gentlemen, that's where Mina Harker, Professor Quaterman, I keep saying Quatermass, the Invisible Man, Captain Nemo and Mr. Hyde, they stay there overnight before venturing this way down to the sand pits in Horsell Common. This is all now Horsell Common, pretty much exactly as it was in H.G. Wells's time. The sand pit is an extraordinary place. Oh, there's people, so I'm going to stop just now. It's an extraordinary place. We're a good, 25, 30 miles from the coast. But the sand pits were a sand pit back then, in Victorian times, and it's a hollow of sand with a little pond, lakey thing, just natural fresh water. And the last time I was here was about 21 years ago. And yeah, it was a lovely summer's day, I think, and everyone were down there, and they had all their beach gear there, and it was like they were down at the coast, but they're like 25 miles away. That's where I'm heading now, and it's over there. I don't know how many people are going to be there. As you can see, it is a glorious day today, especially for January. Oh, I've got a dog running towards me now. But the thing is, everybody thinks it happens at the sand pits, but in the book, the narrator says near the sand pits. So I just want to have a little delve down there, and I'll tell you what I found. Well, that's more peaceful, isn't it? Yeah. This is the sand pit, which in 20 years is a bit different to how I remember it. We haven't had an awful lot of rain in England here over Christmas, and this is filled by rainwater, so that is not as big as I remember it. But, you know, come the heavy rain, I'm sure it will fill back up. So, yeah, this is the sand pit, which everybody assumes is because it's like a hollow like this, and you've got the earth banks all around it. I mean, it's not far off you know, what H.G. Wells describes. If you imagine that with a 30-foot in diameter cylinder sat there, yeah, you can quite believe it. It could be that he came here and you know, the notion of having the banks there gave him the idea of it. I don't know, but anyway, the old sand pits are that away. All right, so this is a rather nice little bench thing cut out of a log. There's one man and his dog over there, and there's some more people over there, but this is much more peaceful. This is much more like it. No need for that mic here. So yeah, I'm going to try and find where that old sand pit was then. So on my way to try and find the old sand pit, these trees, right? These trees. My favourite Jerry Anderson show is UFO, and all around Black Park, which is where they did their location filming, you had trees just like this. And I feel like I've wandered onto the set of UFO. I'm half expecting a UFO alien in his nifty red outfit with chainmail links to lean out from behind one of these trees and start having a shoot at me. Well, I think I found it. I think I'm here. This is the original sand pit, now far more overgrown. This is where Ogilvy learns of a meteorite landing somewhere between Ottershaw and Woking on the Common, and comes alone to the Common and finds it, and he's very puzzled because what he finds here isn't a round ball, which he was expecting a meteorite to look like. He finds a cylinder 30 feet across, buried with earth blown up all over the way around it, some trees scorched from where it crashed. He finds that quite a puzzle. Then he starts hearing noises coming from the cylinder and assumes it's just the cooling of the metal, but that continues, and then he realizes that clinker that's on the outside is falling off, and then he realizes that a black mark that he had noticed on the end of the cylinder was in a different place to where it had been 5 minutes before, and he realizes that the end of this cylinder is unscrewing. Therefore there must be a man inside, and that galvanates him, and off he rushes to warn everybody down in Woking. All right, so this is the crash site of the very first cylinder. It's great to be here in the correct one, because 20 years ago I thought it was what they call the beach over there. It ain't, it's this one here. So now I've got to head back to Woking. I've got to pretend to be Ogilvy and flee to Woking to warn folk. And I'm assuming I go that way because I can hear traffic. So, oh, there's a crow. So yeah, bye-bye crash cylinder. We got to imagine later on when, you know, the townsfolk and the narrator come up, this is the edge. I'm going to go back because this is brilliant. This is the pit, if you like. I'm going to go back. This is the pit. You've got to imagine that a bit deeper, and with a 30-foot cylinder inside it. Oh, so good to be here, and it's so good that there's no one around. I should have dressed as a Victorian gent, shouldn't I? Yes, yes. All right, yeah, so I'll report as we reach Woking. So I'm heading towards the Cobham Road, which is the route the astronomer Ogilvy would have taken. Yeah, I've just passed this. Now, either this is a brand new feature on the Common and they haven't quite filled it yet. Can you see there's barely any water in it? Or there's a serious water shortage here, which would explain why the beach back there ain't very beachy. So Ogilvy would have come out from Horsell Common, although thinking about it, Horsell Common most probably came down here where the football pitches, he would have come down the common this way and he would have found the Cobham Road and that pub, which these days is called the Wheat Sheaf, right? I'm going to read from the book now. Don't worry, it's not a dramatic reading. It says, he stood irresolute for a moment, then turned, scrambled out of the pit and set off running wildly into Woking. The time then must have been somewhere around about 6 o'clock. That's 6 in the morning. Right, and here we go. He met a wagoner and tried to make him understand, but the tale he told and his appearance was so wild, his hat had fallen off in the pit, that the man simply drove on. I love the fact that somebody is considered wild because they weren't wearing a hat. So it's at this point when he reached the road, that's when he would have met the wagoner. He was equally unsuccessful with the potman who was just unlocking the doors of the public house by Horsell Bridge. The fellow thought he was a lunatic at large and made an unsuccessful attempt to shut him into the tap room. That sobered him a little, and when he saw Henderson, the London journalist, in his garden, he called over the palings and made himself understood. So, that's out of the book. I'm going to go and investigate this Wheat Sheaf now and see if I can find a tap room. I don't want to get locked into it. Well, that wouldn't be a bad thing, but I'm just going to, for, research sake, I'm going to check this pub out. I've just had a very refreshing Peroni. I asked them in there, is there a tap room in here? And the girl didn't know. She knows of the significance of the pub. She knew that the pub is in the book, but no, nobody refers to any of the rooms in there as a tap room. So, a bit of a shame. So anyway, yeah, after Ogilvy is almost manhandled into the tap room, he manages to shake off the potman, and just there where you see that road sign is Horsell Bridge, and I'm guessing it's one of these houses that Henderson lived in. Oh look, it's gone quiet. Henderson was out in his garden, and Ogilvy approaches Henderson and says, you know that meteorite? It's come down. It's come down on the common. So both of them rush off that way, back up to the common to investigate the cylinder. And then Henderson comes back, I'm assuming this way, past his house, over the bridge, and off to the railway station to telegraph the newspapers in London. Just after the bridge there, and look, we have a crashed cylinder on Horsell Common, and we have a tripod, plural, in the subway. So, take, 5? Horsell Bridge is there, subway's there. There's one monument to H.G. Wells I'm holding back until tomorrow. There's one here, which wasn't here the last time I was here, which is this rather splendid statue of the chap holding, the sphere from First Men in the Moon. And I think that's meant to be Martian weed. I guess that's Martian weed. Yes. Yeah. So that's it for today. I had a wander into Woking town centre, having a look to see if there were buildings that that H.G. Wells would have recognised, or even did some shopping in. But so much of the town centre has been redeveloped over the years that they've flattened an awful lot of it, and just built up all these horrible modern buildings everywhere. You get the odd church or the odd, 19th century building, but it's got these horrible buildings either side of it. There's no charm to Woking at all. It's a real shame. You've got this guy, okay, he only lived here 18 months, but while here, he had the idea for what people consider the springboard up until he come up with it. Nobody had really come up with the notion of aliens from another planet invading Earth. It happened here, you know, the whole subject of alien invaders coming to conquer Earth started here in this town. And there's nothing, I mean, you know, I've shown you a couple of things in the town centre, and I've got one more to show you tomorrow, but that's it. I went into Waterstone's, the bookshop, just to have a look and just see if there was an acknowledgement of him in there, but nope. They had one copy of War of the Worlds and they had one copy of The Time Machine, and that was it on their shelves, which is a real shame. But yeah, I don't know what I'm going to do now. I've got to go out and have a meal later, and I'm going to pick up the story tomorrow morning. As I say, Ogilvy stayed up at Horsell Common. Henderson came back. So I'm going to carry on tomorrow morning, where I can properly now start following the narrator around. Right, it's the following morning. The hotel I was in has a as much as you can eat breakfast thing. So I've had 3 plates of full English to warm me up, which is just as well because it's flipping freezing, and we've got this freezing fog here, just like back at home yesterday. Hopefully this is going to lift soon, because there's a couple of things I really need to show in bright sunlight to show them off to their best. Anyway, so yeah, I'm off on my way. That there is Horsell Bridge, where Ogilvy meets Henderson. As I said yesterday, this is called the Saturn Trail. This is the canal, and I'm going to follow it. It goes on up that way. I'm going to follow it to continue the story. Well, this is a very lovely walk along here, very peaceful. Just over there is the big noisy road that I had to go down the subway with the mural on yesterday. So yeah, this is the canal. Look at those houses through the trees there. They would have been around in the time of H.G. Wells. So I'm not going back up to the common. Basically, in the book, the narrator hears about the falling cylinder from a newspaper boy when he goes out to buy the paper about 8 in the morning, and it just says, I went up to the common via the Horsell Bridge, which is where we're going to now. Okay, so I'm not going to go back up to the common. If you've seen the George Powell version, the BBC version, the Pendragon version, you have the same thing. You have the opening, the Jeff Wayne audio version, you have the opening of the cylinder, which he is witness to. He's witness to the first viewings of the Martians coming out, those ugly brutes, and the first firing of the heat ray, which wipes out Henderson and the delegation who are approaching it, waving a white flag. It's a classic moment in the novel, and I love it dearly. And yes, he scrambles off the common, and in a mad panic makes his way, or tries to make his way home. As I say, I'm not going back up to the common for that. I do urge you, if you've never read the book, seek it out or listen to it on Audible or whatever. It is so superior to any version that's been made, and I'm including the George Powell version in that, of which I'm, you know, a very, 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 very great fan. Yeah, I mean, it's never been better than this. Is what is so galling, as particularly BBC. I'm looking at you. You have the most fantastic, and Steven Spielberg, I'm looking at you and all, mate. You have the most fantastic source material. You know, brilliant source material, and you mess it up. You make changes. Why? There ain't nothing wrong with it. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. This is my little early morning rant right now. It's getting a bit noisier because we're nearing the road more. So yeah, the narrator, he's witnessed the opening, he's witnessed the firing of the heat ray, and in a blind panic he staggers home. He says in the book he doesn't really remember how he got to where we're going to next, but from then on he becomes more lucid, and yeah, we'll talk about that in a sec. So it's about 15 minutes later. The fog is breaking up, thankfully. This is in H.G. Wells's day, Ottershaw Bridge. He calls it that in the novel. Now it's called Monument Bridge, and we have the remains of a crane here. This was a very industrial area around Woking in the late Victorian and into Edwardian times, and I'm grateful for that crane and that plaque there, because shortly I'll be saying about how the narrator collapses here at the bridge near the gasworks, and I was just wondering where the gasworks might have been. I was thinking maybe it's back that way because you've got a lot of industry back there, you might be able to hear it, but no, that plaque over there says that the gasworks were beyond the bridge a little bit further along. Okay, all right, so I'm up and over the bridge. The bridge there is those white columns, and it's just about here. Horsell Common is behind me. See, look, there's the Peace Garden from yesterday. So yeah, the narrator stumbles all the way down here, and he says, "At last I could go no further. I was exhausted with the violence of my emotion and of my flight, and I staggered and fell by the wayside. That was near the bridge that crosses the canal by the gasworks. I fell and lay still." So roughly where that tree is with the bush at the base, this is where the narrator falls down. The gasworks was just there somewhere, all right? He manages to pull himself together, and then he says, "I rose and walked unsteadily up the steep incline of the bridge." That's not much of a steep incline to me. I don't think that bridge has been rebuilt since H.G. Wells's time, so I think that's a bit of you know, dramatic embellishment there. He goes on to say, "A head rose over the arch, and the figure of a workman carrying a basket appeared. Beside him ran a little boy. He passed me, wishing me good night. I was minded to speak to him, but did not. I answered his greeting with a meaningless mumble and went on over the bridge." And that's what we're about to do now. And then when we're over the bridge, we've got a bit of a conundrum to think about. I've just nipped into a side road. Oh look, trains, that's relevant in a minute. That is relevant. I've nipped into this little side road because, yeah, I'm on the busy road now. Just want to say, yeah, the Jeff Wayne version, he's severely truncated the narrator's flight from the common. Everything I'm just about to talk about isn't in it. All he's got is people clawed off their way off the common and I ran too. At last I reached Maybury Hill and in the dim coolness of my home, ... All right. So, yeah, we're just about to move on. Couple of things just to note before we move on. Moving into this little side road is an Esso sign on that garage. I haven't seen one of them for many a year. Up there, can you see, there's a dragon on the top of that roof, which is rather good. And hopefully the owner's not there, but there's the most peculiar house just round here. I just want to, hopefully you can hear me. Kevin, I know I should have had the microphone. I just want to show this house. It's nothing to do with what we're up to, but look at this. That is quite a place. Get out quick, Eric. All right, so that train bridge. It'd be really nice if a train comes along as I'm walking, and I hope you can hear me. Right, that train bridge. Oh, nearly got run over. That train bridge is, I'm keeping recording in case a train goes over it. That train bridge is absolutely 100% from H.G. Wells's time. This is exactly the bridge he would have seen. This is one he's writing about, and that is called the Maybury Arch. I'll be travelling on that when I go home later. By the way, that's Maybury Road, and, well, I don't know, yeah, I think I can just about see it. That's down there is where I was yesterday. That's the house H.G. Wells lived in. So I'll keep going. As we go under the arch and come out the other side, we are on Maybury Hill. Ta-da, timing or what? Oh, and that was a train. Yeah. Right, so I'm a little bit further up Maybury Hill. Over there, that road over there is Oriental Road. Now I'm guessing in the book, as he comes up that way, the railway bridge is there, down past that house. As he comes up, there's a group of people, he said, near Oriental Terrace. There is no Oriental Terrace anymore. There's Oriental Road. So I'm assuming that's where Oriental Terrace was, all right? Now, I was going to be going down there. There's a couple of things to show you that are significant down there, but one of them in particular, you're going to need nice sunlight to show it off to its best, as I say, and it is clearing, although slowly. So I'm going to continue on up Maybury Hill. All right, so I'm going to return to that later. Now, that walking guide has it that one of these houses here is the narrator's house. Shortly we'll be talking about how from his house the narrator sees the destruction of a couple of things in Oriental Terrace over there. But I think this is, number one, it's too close, and number two, he says his French windows face towards the Common, and the Common is that way. So the orientation would have been a house sort of pointing that kind of way. So this is Maybury Hill. I mean, that could be a contender. Yeah, I mean, that might very well be the house. Look, you have got windows facing that way. Ooh. I think we might have a match. Definitely not those, but wow, I want to buy that house. So yeah, we're going on up Maybury Hill, and I've got a little bit for you in a sec. Again, I've just popped round the corner to give myself a bit more peace and quiet. That's a very good contender as well, maybe, and that one. Jeff Wayne again alters things. He doesn't have a wife. He has a partner who lives in London with her father. But in the novel, the narrator goes home and tells his wife all about it. This is late on Friday night. And in the Jeff Wayne version, you've got more alterations. In the Jeff Wayne version, he says that I awoke to alien sounds of hammering from the pit and hurried to the railway station to buy the paper. Around me, the daily routine of life, working, eating, sleeping, was continuing serenely as it had for countless years. He also brings something up from the Saturday. He says, in the afternoon, a company of soldiers came through and deployed along the edge of the Common to form a cordon. But in the book, the narrator tells his wife all about it on the Friday evening. He has a meal. He says this is the last normal meal he would have for some time. And he's firmly convinced that the Martians have made a mistake. They can't get out the crater. They're being affected by the Earth's gravity. They will just be pounded into atoms by the artillery. All right. In the novel then, Saturday morning he gets up, he discusses things with his neighbours and the milkman, and the milkman tells him how the soldiers had arrived during the night and surrounded the pit. After breakfast, he goes down the hill, which is that away, okay, but is stopped from going over the railway, under the railway bridge by soldiers. No one is to cross over the canal, you know, the bridge that is beyond that. He pops into town, but he doesn't describe it, and then goes home. All right. I'm going to have to find a quieter place than this. Shall I or shan't I? No, let's go for it, because we're not far off the brow of the hill, so it's nice and quiet now. So Saturday evening, round about 6 o'clock, he says about how the tops of the trees near the Oriental College burst into flame from the long-range heat ray. The tower of the church beside it crumbles and the pinnacle of the mosque is destroyed. He realises the crest of Maybury Hill is within range. All right? He and his wife, they go out, they look down the hill and they see hussars riding under the railway bridge and go off into the Oriental College. Now, Maybury Hill is quite a long road, but if you're let me go back. If you're standing on the hill and you come out your house and you can see down the hill to the railway bridge to see soldiers going to the Oriental College. Can you see down there, just in the fog where the green lights are? That's where that retail park is, where the Asda supermarket is, and I think that's where the Oriental College used to be. So, and we're not far off the brow of the hill. So, I think I'm here. I think one of these houses, maybe the one before. Look, we're almost at the brow of the hill. One of these houses is it. This is pretty much exactly where the narrator lived. I am so cold, it's untrue. I can't feel my fingers, I can't feel my nose, I can't feel my ears. Anyway, I've gone over the brow of Maybury Hill and I've come up to the other end, and that's because in the novel, and a hussar comes up the hill knocking on doors, telling everybody, you've got to leave, and the narrator decides he's going to take his wife to safety to stay with relatives in Leatherhead. So it says he comes to the Spotted Dog pub on Maybury Hill, and this is the end of Maybury Hill, and that is the Ivy at Maybury Hill pub, and it's certainly from the right time period, so I'm guessing this is the Spotted Dog. He comes up here, he gets a pony and trap, takes it back down to his house, which is that way, loads up his wife and goods, comes back up here, and this road here going that way, that's see the sign over there, well, when the blue car gets out of the way, that's the old Woking Road, right? That way is the old Woking Road, and that's the way to Leatherhead. And yeah, old Woking is a village, and I guess it was supplanted by the town of Woking. All right, so yeah, he comes up here, takes his wife to Leatherhead, returns, and here we are back on Maybury Hill, and that's the Spotted Dog. And he's just about to encounter the tripod for the first time. So, the narrator takes his wife to Leatherhead, returns near midnight, reaches Maybury Hill just as a thunderstorm breaks, and he's riding the pony and trap up the hill. The hill, bottom of the hill is that way, top of the hill is that way, and round about here, and I'll tell you why in a minute, I think it's round about here, this happens, all right? He says, abruptly my attention was arrested by something that was moving rapidly down the opposite slope of Maybury Hill, i.e. going that way. At first I took it for the wet roof of a house, but one flash following another showed it to be in swift rolling movement. It was an elusive vision, a moment of bewildering darkness, and then, in a flash-like daylight, the red masses of the orphanage near the crest of the hill, the green tops of the pine trees, and this problematical object came out clear and sharp and bright. And this thing I saw, how can I describe it? A monstrous tripod higher than many houses, striding over the young pine trees and smashing them aside in its career. A walking engine of glittering metal, striding now across the heather, articulate ropes of steel dangling from it, and the clattering tumuli of its passage mingling with the riot of the thunder. A flash, and it came out vividly, heeling over one way with 2 feet in the air, to vanish and reappear almost instantly, as it seemed, with the next flash 100 yards nearer. Can you imagine a milking stool tilted and bowled violently along the ground? That was the impression those instant flashes gave, but instead of a milking stool, imagine it a great body of machinery on a tripod stand, right? So that's what he sees through the trees, okay? And the reason I am guessing it happens here is we're on the opposite, what he calls the opposite slope of Maybury Hill, i.e. the opposite side of the hill to where he lives. We're near the brow of the hill, and hang on a second. Oh, hang on 1 second. It's incredible. It's all quiet. I get my notes out and everything, and get ready to record, and then as soon as I record, bloody cars turn up. Yeah, there's no orphanage today, but through those trees is this Christian retreat, okay? And that is absolutely the right age and the right size to be an orphanage. I reckon that's the orphanage. It's gone quiet, hurrah. That's the brow of the hill. So imagine a tripod taller than many houses here. He approaches the ridge of the hill, which is just here, and realizes there's a dead body. Just now I've got people cutting bloody trees down. What are the chances? He finds a dead body just here, and he turns it over. It's the first time he's ever encountered a dead body, and it's the landlord of the Spotted Dog pub. Anyway, he hurries on over the brow of the hill and returns home. So I've come over the ridge. I'm back on the other side of the ridge, town side of the hill, looking at all the houses. I'm still sure that's the one. That's the narrator's house there. So he returns home, collapses. During the night, he realizes that someone's breaking into the house, and it's the artilleryman. That's when he meets the artilleryman. They compare stories and spend the night in the house, pack their bags, and set off the following morning. And the book has it, the narrator says that they come out of the house, if that's the house, the fog's almost gone. You should be able to make out down there. Can you see the bridge? The railway bridge. They come out, they start walking down the hill. I'm just going to cross the road. They come down the hill. There's a number of all the trees about. The ones that were on fire are now just smouldering. He says that the orphanage, which is up there, was still on fire, and in the road here, or hereabouts, is the sorry, distracted by something. Yeah, in the road here are a number of dead bodies, groups of blackened dead bodies, all soaked through now because of the storm. So, hang on a sec. Just stand in the middle of the roundabout. Hopefully, yeah, I can see it. Can you see it? The railway bridge is just there. They go down to the railway bridge, and on this side, back in H.G. Wells's time, there was lots of trees. They break through the trees to get to the railway tracks, and they leave Woking, following the railway tracks to go up to Byfleet on their way to London. So, and that's where the narrator leaves Woking. I'm going to go along here. I'm out now in Oriental Road. This retail park, I think, is where the Oriental College was. Okay, and I read about that last night in the pub where I had my my dinner, there's a thing about the Oriental College, and I'm just going to stop for a second and get my notes out, and I'll mention that. So yeah, the Oriental College was built in the 1880s by a Hungarian guy by the name of Dr. Leitner, and he built it as a place for the study of the language, culture and history of the Middle and Far East. And yeah, it was quite a place, and it gave this road the name Oriental Terrace. He also built something else over there, which I'll show you in a second. And the significance for War of the Worlds, number one, and the reason why I'm pointing the camera this way, is that church over there is St. Peter's Church, and in the novel, the narrator and his wife on that Saturday night, they see this very spire get hit by the heat ray and burst into flame and crash to the ground. They also see, and again, this is why I think that house over there up the hill is the one. They see from the window of their house that spire getting hit by the heat ray and crashing down, but also they see this be destroyed, and this is why I was hoping the sun would have come out, but alas it hasn't, but hopefully you can get it. Yeah, it's the Shah Jahan Mosque. Now, can you see it? I hope you can. It's the most brilliant of time. I'm going to walk up. I'm always uncomfortable about filming, you know, potentially sensitive places. I don't want to cause offence, but this mosque was built by Dr. Leitner, and it was the first mosque ever built in Britain. I hope nobody minds me just popping in here. There we go. The significance of this is that yeah, it was around in the time of H.G. Wells. As I say, it was the first one built in the UK. Now the number one mosque, the head mosque, whatever term, forgive me, I don't know the term in the UK, is the one right by Regent's Park, where the narrator walks at the end of the book. That is the main one, but this, because of its age and its architecture, is hugely significant. Yeah, and H.G. Wells destroyed it in the novel. He sees this get hit by the heat ray. Horsell Common is over there, so it's quite a range the old heat ray's got. So there we go. That's that. Just, I hope you're getting this. I wish the sun was out, because that would have just sparkled, wouldn't it? So I'm ending my video today, my trip today, with a visit to the two main monuments to H.G. Wells and the War of the Worlds. First clue is that, which is a mosaic art piece of bacteria, and then we'll come around and we have rather beautiful half-buried cylinder. All right, which has, this is good. This is an acknowledgement, right? Although when I was here 20 years ago, the council hadn't put a bloody bike stand right next to it. So look at that. That's an art piece, and you've bolted a bike stand next to it, and someone's defaced it. Nice. But no, the main one, and mighty impressive it is too. Oh look, more bacteria. Is what's called around here the Martian, but it's actually the tripod, which is fabulous. And the fog has gone. The sun's not quite out, but the fog has gone. So, result there. Yeah, wonderful tribute to the War of the Worlds. full credits for having it in glittering metal, but it's 30 feet tall and kind of like dwarfed by that building, and that building. That should be the height of that. That is not many houses, is it? But you know, they didn't have the money, they wouldn't have the planning permission to have such a folly that tall. So you know, full credit to the council for doing that. It's a great acknowledgement to, you know, the War of the Worlds. But I don't know, you know, you've got that, you've got this. H.G. Wells, along with Jules Verne, you know, they are the fathers of science fiction, aren't they? You know, and you know, what with him living here when he come up with the book and setting it, well, not in it, but just outside it, you know. On the one hand, I'd like there to be something more, but then on the other hand, and I said this on my Captain Clegg video, it would be nice if the location for a literary piece of work, you know, got more of an acknowledgement there. It would bring in tourism, but then on the other hand, would you want an awful lot of tourism? I mean, you know, say eventually they did do a totally faithful version and it was a blockbuster smash, and tourism ramped right up, and you had, you know, flocks of people coming here, and they did do something. They did, like, I don't know, a H.G. Wells theme park where you can ride on the time machine or take a trip to the moon or battle the Martian invaders. I could see that then ruining Horsell Common. Horsell Common would have a visitor centre, and you'd have all sorts of tat sold there and stuff like that, and it would ruin it. So on the one hand, it would be nice if he got more of an acknowledgement other than these pieces here and some pubs named after him. It would be nice to actually have a library named after him. You know, it would be nice for him to be acknowledged more. But then on the other hand, what I like about being here is the fact that Maybury Hill and Horsell Common are pretty much unchanged from his time, and you can go there and you can imagine that you're there and you can see it for yourself. So that's it, that's me done. That's my little excursion over. I have thought in the past about taking a whole week off and doing the whole trip, you know, from here, follow the narrator totally all the way, follow his adventures up to London and Primrose Hill. But you know, number one, he would have to do things like, as I say, him and the artilleryman, you'd have to be walking alongside railway tracks, and that's not going to happen. And also, you know, we've had over 100 years of urban development and what have you. So a lot of the fields and such, I'm guessing, just, you know, aren't going to be there now. There's going to be housing estates. But what I am thinking about doing maybe is doing the segment at Shepperton, when he and the artilleryman reach Shepperton and the artillery open fire, and what happens down in the river and how they become separated, etc., etc. So I might do that at some later stage. Let me know. Let me know if you'd like me to do that. Let me know what you think of this video. Should I do more War of the Worlds ones? You can let me know here on the YouTube comments thing. But also I do have a War of the Worlds Facebook page, which I've had going for quite a few years, and I really should post more often on, and maybe doing this might spur me on to do it. But yeah, if you search for me there, you can leave a comment there. Oh, by the way, just down there, that's that statue of H.G. Wells from yesterday, and that's Horsell Bridge over there where I started this morning. So, yeah, as I say, I have got a War of the Worlds Facebook page. It's called The War of the Worlds. So seek me out there. Yeah, follow me there. I'll be posting, day after I put this up, I'll be posting the a photo album of today. And yeah, come and join me there and let me know what you think. Okay, folks, yeah, to the next one.